Hello all, welcome to Tech Capture. So in this my new playlist, Mastering Google Cloud Architecture. This is our first video. In this video, we are going to see what cloud architects do, what are roles and responsibilities of cloud architect, what are their day-to-day activities and how they spend their day as an cloud architect. So all these things we are going to cover in this video. So just stay tuned till the end and you will learn about a cloud architect and their roles and responsibilities. Okay. So before understanding what is a cloud architect, let's first understand the word architect. What is meant by architect? So it is not only related to a cloud. So even if you want to build your house, you will first go to architect and get your blueprint of your house, that how your house would be. Okay, so the similar thing in cloud as well. So what is architect? So the simple definition of architect is the person or a team who will convert a business requirement into technical implementation. So any kind of business requirement, suppose in case of cloud, I have business requirement that I have to build a scalable online sales or online e-commerce platform. That is my business requirement. So what cloud architect will do, it will get that business requirement and try to implement as a technical solution. So that is a simple and I would say the prime role of any kind of architect. Okay, so there are different types of architect, like cloud architect, like solution architect. Inside cloud architect there are different roles like solution architect, security architect, DevOps architect. So specifically in this video we are going to talk about a solution architect. Okay, so hope you will understand the architect, the concept of architect, the person or team who converts a business requirement into technical solutions. Okay, now let's see example where I want to build or I want to start my business of a movie industry, where I want to build my own movie theater and also to book tickets for this movie. I want to create one online shopping platform. So here I have two requirements. For first requirement, to build my own movie theater, I will go to construction architect, and to build an online ticket booking platform, I will go to a cloud or solution architect. So I'm just taking the example so you can correlate and you will understand in better way. Okay, so what will happen in case of first scenario? When I want to design or I have to build a cinema hall, I will go to construction architect, and architect will create a blueprint that how would be the overall design of that cinema hall. So it will consider the factors, so it will check these factors. Okay, what would be the location, how much space will be there to construct a cinema hall, so how much space we required for a screen theater, or you want a multi-screen theater or you want single screen theater. So all these things it will consider before creating the designing. So it will also consider the budget. Okay, what will be the budget? Based on the budget it will decide, okay, which material we have to use, which all facilities we can implement, and which all luxuries we can put in place while designing the cinema hall. So what is the role of architect here? They consider factors like space utilization, audience comfort, safety regulation, and aesthetic. In aesthetic, like what materials to use for building this cinema hall, what colors they want to use, what lightening material they want to do, and what is interior decor would be. So all these things this architect will create just a blueprint, and then this blueprint just pass to the engineer, and engineer will work on actual implementation. Similar thing will happen in case of cloud architect. So now I will go to cloud architect to create application to book a movie ticket. So for cloud architect, same thing, it will create overall structure and blueprint of this application, which is online booking, ticket booking platform. So they will determine which cloud service to use, which cloud platform to use, how they will integrate the services, like user should be able to book the ticket, they would be able to do the payment, how payment gateway will be integrated, so what all services to be used, and how to manage the high availability, security and reliability of the application. So that complete blueprint will be designed by a cloud architect. Same thing, it will take consideration of location. Now this location will be a cloud region or zone. Budget will be again how much cost will be estimated for that application. The security measures, so who can log in into the application, who will have admin access, who will be able to book a ticket, who will be able to make a payment, and what are the payment strategies. So during the payment there should be enough security that no one would able to make any kind of scam or fraud. So all these things will be designed by cloud architect. So they will create again architecture diagram or a blueprint of this complete application, and then different engineers will help to implement all this architecture. Now we'll see what are the different types of project cloud architects works upon. As basically we are aware that DevOps engineers specifically work on creating CI/CD pipeline, or data engineer works on creating a data pipeline. Then what actually the ML engineers works on creating the machine learning models and deploying that model. But how cloud architects works and what kind of project cloud architects typically works on, so that we are going to see here. So the most common projects cloud architect works on the migration project, where there is a migration from on-premises to Google Cloud or another cloud to Google Cloud. So nowadays there is migration from cross cloud as well, like AWS to Google Cloud or Azure to Google Cloud and on-premises to Google Cloud. So there are different kind of migration project cloud architect has to work upon. There will be different phases of migration, different strategies of migration, and that we are going to cover in this playlist, but in another video. So don't worry, you will see about migration as well in another video. Then the another kind of projects are cloud native development. Here the cloud architect design and develop the software or the solution to use a cloud native solution like serverless platform or microservice platform like Kubernetes, and they design and implement this kind of application or solutions on cloud native platform. You can see the designing and implementing cloud native application and services using serverless computing, microservice architecture and containerization technologies like Kubernetes. So in this kind of solution, mostly the solution or services used are a cloud native and the managed solutions, I would say. Then third kind of projects are multi-cloud and hybrid cloud projects. So nowadays most of the companies or organization want to adopt the multi-cloud strategy, where they will use or utilize the multiple cloud. They will use some services from Google Cloud, they will use another services from AWS, or they will use DevOps from Azure. So cloud architects have to set up these multi-cloud strategies. So these kind of, I would say, the projects also there where cloud architects has to work upon. They have to set up the connectivity, they have to set up the network architecture, so they all resources can communicate from one service to another service in another cloud provider as well. So this kind of projects also there. Then again, these are again the common project like big data and data analytics projects. Here the architect has to build a scalable and cost effective data processing and data analytics solution. So they don't actually work upon creating the data pipelines, but they create a platform and the solutions where a data engineer seamlessly create their own code and data pipeline and execute it in hassle free manner. Okay, so that are again the task of a cloud architect, and maintain all the security, scalability. So if data engineer is running pipeline on cloud composer, so cloud composer should have the enough infrastructure to execute that pipeline. Again, that is the task of a cloud architect. Then again we'll see few more kind of project like DevOps and CI/CD project. So here also implementing the DevOps practice and continuous integration CI/CD pipeline using cloud native tools and services for automated deployment and testing. So again, I would take one example when I worked as a cloud architect. So we had a different DevOps team as well, where I was working as a cloud architect. So they were using one platform Junkin, but provisioning a Junkin instance on managed compute engine or on Kubernetes, so that was again the task of the cloud architect, where we have to make that solution available, where DevOps team can create their own CI/CD pipelines. We have to create that secrets where DevOps team can use that credential in their pipeline. So all kind of setup we have to do as a cloud architect, and sometimes the overlap is there between DevOps and a cloud architect. Sometimes they have to do similar kind of work. Some organization have the DevOps team which work as a cloud architect, and they have the cloud architect team which works as a DevOps engineer or the platform engineer. So in DevOps and cloud architect, few roles and responsibilities are common, I would say. So there is overlap between roles and responsibilities when it comes to DevOps and cloud architect. Again, security and compliance project. Some projects are there, cloud environment is set up and we have to implement the security based practices. We have to implement security controls and compliance project. So in security we have to work upon the network security, IAM based practices and data security. So cloud architect will create a solution so it can create secure infrastructure using the network, using databases, using IAM best practices. So it is again a role of cloud architect to follow the all best practices for security for each resources. So suppose there is a compute engine, then cloud architect will decide which are the security features in compute engine which they can use. So security feature I say is a compute engine, then compute engine should not have public IP, compute engine should not have open port accessible to internet. So all these kind of security measures for each service. When it comes to BigQuery, there also data should be encrypted encrypted. When it's come to a cloud storage also have some security features, like the cloud storage bucket should not be publicly accessible. So all these security based practices should be implemented as a part of implementing security and compliance. Okay, that is again the role of cloud architect, who is designing the cloud environment for the project. And again, the cost optimization and governance. So again, this is the role of architect, not only designing the solution, so designing the scalable solution, designing cost effective solution, designing the reliable solution. These are a word the cloud architect should remind. Okay, so not only building the solution, but cloud architect has to think that which solution is cost effective. So suppose I have a single container, I have to run application. So instead of using a complete Kubernetes cluster, I can use a Cloud Run, because that is a cost effective solution, and Kubernetes is not required for this use case, even though it will work, but which is cost effective. So Cloud Run is a cost effective, and I can use a Cloud Run. So suppose I have to create some data, I have to store some data for one of these service, and it is kind of temporary data, so I don't need to provision complete a Cloud SQL instance. I can use a BigQuery also to store that data temporarily. So you have to create solutions which are cost effective. You have to optimize cost of the cloud environment. So that is again a role of a cloud architect. And again, the last is data migration and data management project. So when you are doing a cloud migration, there is a part of data migration as well, and sometimes the client won't want to migrate a complete infrastructure. They want to migrate only kind of data warehouse, or they want to only migrate data lake. So these kinds of projects also there, where you have to set up complete ETL pipeline, you have to set up complete reporting pipeline, you have to migrate the data. There are different data migration strategies. You have to decide which data migration should be used in which scenario. So that is again a role of cloud architect in working as a cloud architect. Okay, so these are the different project cloud architects will work upon. Okay, and now we'll see the responsibilities of cloud architect one by one. So we have seen a project, what kind of project cloud architect has to work, but apart from this project, what are roles and responsibilities cloud architect has, that we'll check one by one. So designing cloud infrastructure. So whenever, let's say any kind of project, we have seen a multiple kind of projects here, like migration project, data management project, DevOps project. But then the first role of cloud architect is design cloud infrastructure. So suppose it is data migration project, then cloud architect has to design a complete landing zone to migrate that workload. Even if it is a DevOps project, the cloud architect should be design complete infrastructure so that pipeline can be run on that infrastructure. So designing cloud infrastructure includes like creating architecture diagram, then creating infrastructure as a code, creating a Terraform script, and then implementing all these solutions, working upon the POC. All the tasks will come under designing a cloud infrastructure. Okay, then selecting the cloud services. As I said, suppose I want to migrate from on-premises to Google Cloud. I am working on the migration project. So currently client is using database like SQL Server database on virtual machine. So what would be the service when I am migrating to the cloud? So I have to select the service. So I have multiple option. I can use a Cloud SQL, which also have a SQL Server option. I can also have option that as it is installing the SQL Server on virtual machine and use as using in the on-prem. So I have to choose which is best suit to requirement, which is best suitable for cost estimation, or cost requirement, which is best suit for scalable solution, and all the requirement. So I have to select the best suitable service. So always remember, while you are designing or you are architecturing solution, there is no one single solution which fit for all requirement. So you have to decide your solution based on the requirement. So some client will say, okay, I don't have much budget, so you just select the service. I can offer a downtime, so you can select a cheaper service. Some critical application, some critical client would say, okay, I am ready to pay whatever you want, just I don't want any kind of downtime. In that case, you design solution that way. So selecting service is always based on the requirement. So it can be business requirement, it can be technical requirement, it can be a dependency, or it can be a cost requirement. So selecting cloud service is again a role of a cloud architect, and it will be by assessing the complete requirement. Then the security and compliance. So as soon as you start creating your first resource in a cloud architecture, the security comes in a place. So security, you cannot like, okay, first I will create my architecture, first I will create my application, and then I will think about security. No, that won't work. So you have to think about security by creating your first design, by creating your first resource. So suppose even if you are creating network, you have to think, how should I create a secure network, not only a network. If you are creating a virtual machine, you have to think about how can I create a secure virtual machine. Okay, if you are creating storage bucket, you have to think how I can create a secure storage bucket. So always remember, not only creating infrastructure is your task is to create a secure infrastructure, your task is to create secure solution and secure application. So security is always first priority for any cloud solution, and that is a prime responsibility of a cloud architect as well as application. So always remember these things as well. Scalability and performance. So why organizations are going from on premises to a cloud? So that is the main reason, that is scalability and performance. Scalability means, I just give a simple example. Suppose you are watching cricket match on Hotstar, and on final match day the traffic will go high on that Hotstar. So Hotstar might have backend infrastructure which should not sustain or it should not go down because of this traffic. So they have a Hotstar architect have set up that kind of scalability. So when there is low traffic, it will use a low infrastructure. If traffic is going high, the infrastructure also scale according to according to the requirement or the traffic, and it won't go down in any case. So you have to always think about scalability and performance. So just take example of YouTube. Nowadays YouTube is like working without any buffer because they scale that infrastructure. How many users are using, that doesn't matter. YouTube always works. If your internet speed is good, YouTube won't stop working or it won't buffer. Again, the cost optimization, the role, as I discussed earlier as well, the role of cloud architect is optimizing the cost. So if you already created infrastructure, the cost optimization is always in picture. So suppose you created a virtual machine. Now you decided to create, okay, I need a virtual machine with 100 GB RAM or like 20 GB RAM, but now your application is running and you observed, okay, this application is not using more than 10% of RAM. Then you have option to reduce the cost. You can create another machine with a lower capacity. Even same case with the databases or all infrastructure, your role is to reduce the cost as well. So you cannot unnecessarily spend your cost on a cloud infrastructure. Then monitoring and troubleshooting. So whenever you are creating the design of any cloud solutions, so monitoring and troubleshooting or logging monitoring would be there. So as soon as there is issue observed, it should create an alert. There should be a ways to alert that issues, or the operation team, or I would say any kind of team, they will just monitor the application with appropriate metrics. So there should be a logging, monitoring and alerting in place, and that is again a role of cloud architect. While designing the solution, they should have take care of these things as well. That application should have enough logging, monitoring and alerting, so can all the support teams or application team can debug their issues whenever they get an issue. So these are all responsibilities of cloud architect. And last one is collaboration and communication. So architect or any kind of architect or cloud architect is in between the business and developer. So whatever the business requirement is coming, cloud architect will understand that requirement, design a solution, and it will just pass it on to the engineers or development team to build that solution. If there is any issue in development, then it will get that issue or get that whatever the bottleneck from the developer, and it will discuss it with business and get the alternate option. So this collaboration and communication should be always in place for cloud architect, and that is again one of the vital role cloud architect has to work upon. Okay, these are all responsibilities of a cloud architect. Now we have seen about responsibilities of cloud architect. Now we'll see what are the must-have skills required for a cloud architect. Suppose someone wants to be a cloud architect, then what are required skills to be a cloud architect? So that we are going to see here. So these are some must-have skills and some skill you should be having. I would discuss both these skills here. So first skill is cloud platform knowledge. Okay, so if you want to become a Google Cloud architect, you should have a complete knowledge on that cloud platform. If you want to become a Google Cloud architect, you should have knowledge on Google Cloud platform. If you want to be a AWS solution architect, you should have a complete understanding on AWS in all compute, storage, network, database and all services. You should at least understand about each services, that when to use which services and how to implement a solution on that particular cloud platform. So that is a must have skills. Without knowing all services, you cannot work as a cloud architect. most of the cases you will get okay something new that you are not aware about, but if you have knowledge about services, you know how to implement that services. So at least you should know what to do, then how to do. Each cloud provider documentation will help you. Okay, so having the cloud platform knowledge is must have skill, I would say. Second is architecture design. So proficiency in designing scalable cloud architect is again a must have skill. So you should understand how to create architecture diagram, you should understand the flow, you should understand the basic infrastructure skill. So that understanding you should have, how to convert that business requirement, what are the different architecture patterns, what are the architecture principles. So whenever creating architecture, you should have understanding of the architecture principles like scalability, reliability, high availability, and there are some few more principles that we'll see again in this playlist in another video, what are the different architecture principle. But you should have a complete understanding of different architecture principle and best practices while working on the architecture design. Okay, then third is infrastructure as a code. So whenever we are working as a cloud architect, you always start by creating the infrastructure. You first create architecture diagram, you create a blueprint of your infrastructure, and try to implement that infrastructure along with your infrastructure as a code. That is the best practice. So most of the case you will use a Terraform. If you are on Azure, you will use native solution. Again on at AWS also you will have native solutions, but basically you should have understanding how infrastructure as a code will work, how you can write different configuration script, and how you can create your infrastructure in a scalable, I would say, as well as a consistent manner. So suppose you created infrastructure today in dev, you tested it, and now you want to move it to the stage environment or prod environment. You should not redo all the things. It should be scalable and portable, so you can quickly create the same infrastructure in another environment. So you should have thorough understanding of infrastructure as a code tool as well. Okay, then scripting and automation. Again, whenever you are working in cloud architect domain, so scripting is required, so you will do a lot of automation. So architects always aim to reduce all the manual tasks. That is again the role of architect. They don't keep okay daily you have to do this manual task, daily you have to check the servers are up or down. So this is a cloud architect responsibility to set up all kind of automation, set up all kind of logging, monitoring, so there won't be any manual task or very minimum manual task for operation teams. Okay, so that requires scripting. It might be a Python scripting, PowerShell scripting, or shell scripting. So just to give you an example, when I was working as architect, I have to create like hundreds of Windows servers, and each servers have 4 disks attached to each. Okay, so while architecting the solution using Terraform, in Terraform there is no option that you can, once you created a virtual machine in Windows, inside a Windows server there will be 4 disks. So you have to attach each disk, you have to format each disk, and you have to set label to each disk. So that is not possible using Terraform. So I have to create a startup script. As soon as my virtual machine gets created, it will execute PowerShell script, and PowerShell script have all the configuration that it will attach all 4 disks, and it will set required labels and disk drive labels. Okay, so that different kind of automation you have to do whenever you are creating infrastructure or creating like CI/CD pipelines. So that knowledge also you should be having. Again, the must have skill is networking and security. So as I said, security should be in place while creating your first resource. Even if you are creating a single virtual machine, you should have understanding that how should I create a secure virtual machine. Okay, the networking, again, whenever you are creating the cloud infrastructure, networking is your first part. Without networking you cannot go ahead with your compute engine or your Kubernetes. So you should have understanding of networking and security. Okay, so these are like must have skills you should have. I am giving example of Google Cloud, but even if you go for AWS or Azure, you should have these skills in particular cloud platform. Okay, now again, some skills I won't say it is good to have, it should be having, like DevOps practice. You should have knowledge of how CI/CD pipeline would be created. So you should have knowledge on like automation tools. You should have knowledge on CI/CD tools. So that is again required for cloud architect, because you will be designing that architecture, and you should understand where you should use a GitLab, where you should use a Jenkins, in which case you will use like version control system, how to integrate that things. So you should be having understanding of all these things. Again, the containerization and orchestration. So here you should be knowing or having the basic knowledge of Docker or how container orchestration works. Some cases you have to work upon data management, then you should be knowing about data analytics platforms, like how to move the data, how to store the data, how to retrieve data. Then the business acumen. Here you should be having ability, like earlier I said, you are in between the developer and business, so you should be having that understanding, that you will understand the business requirement as well as you will understand the technical requirement and technical difficulties from a developer end as well. And the communication and collaboration, so these are again skills required for becoming a cloud architect. So as of now we have seen who is cloud architect, what are the roles and responsibilities are cloud architect, what cloud architects actually do, what kind of project cloud architect works upon, what are the skills required to be a cloud architect, and what are the roles and responsibilities of cloud architect. So these all things we have seen about a cloud architect. So if you have still have any doubt about the role of cloud architect, you can just reach me know in comment section, or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll try to answer your queries. So we'll be seeing more videos on mastering Google Cloud architecture in this playlist. So that's it for this video, and we'll see you in next video.